Today we're talking about monetizing your content. If you want to make videos that actually drive leads and sales, there are 4 things you have to have in your content workflow. I call this the attention conversion funnel. These 4 things are how you actually flow attention into dollars. Now, unlike—
Wait, what? This is mind-blowing. So it's not about having a massive following, but rather about having the right strategy? That's a game changer. It really shows that effective frameworks can outshine sheer numbers any day.
typical frameworks, these 4 steps multiply together. So if even one of them is a 0, the whole equation is 0 and you will not be able to turn viewers into buyers. This one framework is how creators and business owners with less than 10,000 followers are able to generate millions of dollars per year, while others with millions of followers are barely able to sell anything. The difference is these 4.
Oh, I'm all ears. 4 pieces to the attention conversion funnel? This sounds like a treasure map for creators. And the fact that it's adaptable to any niche? That's just fantastic. Everyone can benefit from this, no matter where they're starting from.
4 steps. So in this video, I'm going to break down all 4 pieces of the attention conversion funnel and the tactical changes you can make today to monetize more effectively. And this will work for any niche at any size for any type of business. Think of it like the core foundations for how to make money from content. Now, I know this works because building content systems is all I do all day long. I have 1 million followers, I've done billions of views, and over the last 3 years, I've grown 3 different businesses to over 7 figures in revenue, all using this exact same framework.
Yes, this is such a powerful insight. Understanding viewer psychology is key. If you can tap into their struggles or desires, that's like hitting the bullseye. It's all about resonance, and this approach is so smart and actionable.
All right, the first step in the attention conversion funnel is called bullseye signaling. If you want someone to buy when they're watching your video, you need to have one of these 2 thoughts pop into their head. Either that's the exact thing I'm struggling with, or that's the exact thing I want. The first one maps to a core pain, and the second one maps to a perceived solution for that core pain. But either way, each of those feels like a bullseye in describing exactly the thing they're struggling with. Very simply put, if you do not pop one of those 2 thoughts in the viewer's head during your content, they will not become a buyer. For sure, guaranteed 100%. And it's not my opinion, this is just base psychology. Here's exactly how it works. When we watch content, we immediately bucket it into one of 3 groups: potential solutions, entertainment, or irrelevant. So right away, the viewer's brain is rapidly trying to understand what bucket your video fits into. If they deem it a potential solution because you've bullseye signaled something they're struggling with, they will focus and lock in a completely different way. But if they don't feel this signaling, they may still watch it for entertainment purposes, but it's really a junk food view that will not turn into dollars. 3 videos later, they will have completely forgotten that they watched it. And if you don't believe me that people do this, think about the last time where you watched a video that made you binge more, click or comment for a lead magnet, and actually want to go down the funnel to see more information. It's almost always based on a problem you have or a demonstrated solution you saw that could be a solve for that problem. Always. So if you're the one making content and you want buyers, step number 1 is that you have to get the viewer to bucket your video into that potential solution first bucket. Now, there are several tactical things you can do in your content to make this bullseye signaling happen more often. I'm just going to rapid fire each of them. The first is getting extremely specific on the topics you talk about and the examples you share in your content. This sounds obvious, but you want to pick topics that tie to the pain points your ideal viewers have and that align with your core offer. For example, one of my offers is that I help business owners design content systems that help them grow their business. The biggest pain points for those types of business owners are things like not knowing what content to make, not knowing how to iterate and improve the content strategy, storytelling, monetization, how to turn viewers into dollars, content systems, stuff like that. So if I want my content to drive more revenue for me, I should probably talk about those topics more often so that I can get a higher level of bullseye signaling. Now, the second thing you want is an extremely clear first 1 to 2 sentences in the hook or intro that signal this pain so that the bullseye signaling can happen. To eat my own dog food on this, these are the first 3 lines I used in the intro of this video. I said, today we're talking about monetizing your content. If you want to make videos that actually drive leads and sales, there are 4 things you have to have in your content workflow. I call this the attention conversion funnel. The first line is super clear that the topic is about monetization. The second line is about the pain, people not being able to turn views into leads or sales. And the second/3rd line was about teasing my potential solution. There are 4 things you have to have called the attention conversion funnel. This is me trying to create enough clarity right away so that you can properly decide if this video would fit into that potential solution bucket. A good rule of thumb is that you want to be unmistakably clear so that any viewer has 100% certainty into whether or not they should opt in. The biggest reason people can't drive sales is confusion. Even if you pick a winning topic that would have signaled, if the viewer can't parse through what the video is going to be about, they'll just default bucket it for irrelevant. Now, the third thing you can do is try to tie the emotional state they would have by keeping a lack of this result. For example, if you literally reference the emotion or pain they'd have, things like frustration, sadness, anger, confusion, and you tie it to not solving the problem, that will ratchet up their interest in finding a solution. Fourth would be to show or describe what the transformation could look like before and after if they find the right solution. If you remind them of the result they want and show them how great the after state could be, again, they're going to key in and think of this as a potential solution. Now, fifth and the last one is to use power words, names, or branding, term branding, to make your solution feel like a novel one. I've talked a lot about this in the past. Term branding is a very powerful way to take an old concept but wrap it in something new. Now, obviously, not all of those 5 things need to happen in the first couple lines, and you don't even need to do all 5 every single video. But the point is, the faster you can get someone to opt into this potential solution bucket, the sooner they will key in and really focus on your content. The whole goal of this first step is to just get them in a buying state of mind, because the other—
Wow, lean back. The trust bank metaphor is brilliant. It makes so much sense. Each piece of valuable content builds that trust, and eventually you have a wealth of credibility. It's like a relationship with your audience that grows over time. Genius.
to entertainment and irrelevant, I guarantee will not. All right, now step number 2 in the attention conversion funnel is called the trust bank. And this is probably the most important step in the entire flow. Now, once a viewer buckets you as a potential solution, they will lean in, and the next thought that comes into their head is, can I really trust this person? I'm interested in what they have to say and it's relevant for me, but why should I trust them? And this is essentially a binary gate when it comes to purchasing in this moment. If they do trust you enough and they're interested, they will go down the funnel. If they don't trust you enough, they're going to churn and bounce. And this is where my concept of a trust bank really comes into play. I like to think of trust as a bank. Every time you signal trust to someone through your content, it's like they deposit a trust coin into their account between you and them. Eventually, that trust balance is so high that they'd pretty much buy anything from you. This is why Gary Vee's give, ask framework is so powerful. Every time you give something for free that genuinely helps someone, it's like they're depositing trust coins into your account, growing the balance. Now, obviously, making 100 posts over several months to deposit 100 trust coins is pretty straightforward. But the real cheat code in content is being able to drive up that trust coin balance quicker than one coin at a time. And this is where the trust ladder comes into play. There are 8 ways that you can signal trust in your content. The ones at the top of the ladder are worth way more than 1 coin each. Let's say the top one is worth 50 coins, that top rung. The ones at the bottom of the ladder are worth less. They're still helpful, but let's say that bottom rung only deposits you 1 trust coin. So here's the trust ladder broken down in order, rung by rung. I'm gonna start with the bottom one, which is the least trust coin accruing, the worst level you could say, and we'll climb up to the top. The 8th rung, the one on the bottom, is third-party verification. So this would be where you reference a study or a stat or like a Gallup poll in your content to justify why whatever you're about to say is true. This can be trusted and it's worth 1 coin, but it's the weakest type of trust. The 7th rung, one above, is called a cold endorsement or testimonial. And this will be where in my content I say something like, I helped Mark, a business owner in San Antonio, fix this problem. It's a single case study from a stranger that nobody knows. It's still better than a third-party random stat, but it's not very strong. And the reason is because I could pretty much make this person up pretty easily and there's no way to verify. And also because Mark, in this case from San Antonio, is so unknown, he doesn't hold any extra weight. The 6th rung, one better, is called borrowed verified proof. And this would be where I would say something like, I used Hormozi's value framework to build this and it's worked for him a ton, so it'll work for me. Essentially, I'm borrowing the credibility from someone they do think is credible to kind of latch on barnacle on a whale to someone they don't. And this is pretty weak because it doesn't indicate your own ability to implement for yourself or others, but it is more valuable because there's weight to the personal brand that you're borrowing from. The fifth rung, the next one up, is called proof of personal result. And this would be where I say, I have personally run my own solution on myself to solve this problem. Here are my results. And this is obviously more powerful than borrowing verified proof, even if you're relatively unknown, because it's demonstration of you getting the result for yourself. The fourth rung is called group/warm testimonials. This would be where I say, I've implemented this for a bunch of people and then rapid fire name them with all of their different results. And obviously a super bonus would be if one of the people you've done this for has a recognizable name and non-zero brand value. Meaning if you say, I did this for Hormozi, it would carry so much weight, 10x or 100x a random person like Mark from San Antonio. And the reason this is ranked higher is because having proof of more than one shows a pattern. Even if it's just you, but you're the only one, that's not as strong as doing it for 10 other people. Now the third rung, the third from the top, is demonstration of ability in the content itself. So this is where you have a video, whether it's live or recorded, but you show very deep competency in the thing you're talking about within the content. Testimonials can be faked or oversold or over-dramatized without a way to third-party check them. But in the content itself, if you're in your bag and people can tell you actually know what you're talking about, this signals very, very high proof. The second rung, second from the top, is called proof of audience. If you have an extremely large audience or personal brand that's clear it wasn't botted or faked, this supersedes all of the levels I've already mentioned. And the reason why is, fair or not, the average person holds a high regard for someone who's built a personal audience. They trust it by default, kind of like outsourcing the trust verification to the crowd. If I have 400,000 subscribers and you just look at that number, that either means I must be good at this or 400,000 other people got duped. So typically people hold high regard for existing audiences. This is why the value of a personal brand is such a strong asset if you can build one effectively. I've seen tons of videos where very small accounts with clearly successful people have shown demonstration of abilities, but because their audience is smaller, I discount it and almost dismiss it. It's not really fair, that's how it works, but this is what it is. Now the top rung, the highest one above everything else, is a warm endorsement from someone that viewer already knows and respects. And this supersedes everything. A lot of people watching this will have had colleagues that shared my video to them in a work Slack or emailed it or DM'd it on Twitter and said, yo, this is the guy you should study for content. That warm recommendation, especially if the person recommending me has trust, will supersede everything. This is why referral programs and viral share loops are so important, because those warm recommendations just have a weight that you cannot replicate on your own. So those 8 steps is the trust ladder. The ones at the very top are worth like 40 or 50 trust coins per point of exposure. The ones at the very bottom are worth 1 to 5 trust coins as you expose to content. Now, the reason this all matters is because the more rungs on the trust ladder you're able to tick off in a piece of content, the faster you can build the trust bank and get someone to trust you. If they trust you, they will go down the funnel to steps 3 and 4 in this framework. Now, here's a few very important things to note on this. The level of a viewer's pain with respect to a certain pain point is inversely correlated to the amount of trust needed to get them to go down the funnel. So if something's super painful, they may be willing to just 2 or 3 trust coins and they're willing to check it out because it's so painful they want a solution. But if something's not that painful and they don't really have a prioritized need for it, then you need a lot of trust accrued to get them down the funnel. Pretty intuitive. Now, the second thing is, as you can imagine, these rungs stack on top of each other within a video. So they're not mutually exclusive. You can have more than one of them activated at a time. So many of you watching this trust me a lot. And if you ask yourself, why is it that we trust him so much? Well, for one, a lot of you, I have been warm recommended from a friend. So as we said, that's like the highest level of trust that can be accrued. But even if I haven't been recommended to you and you found me on the feed, the second rung is having a huge audience or personal brand. I have huge audiences on almost every platform, and I remind you of that in every intro on every video on this channel. That's rung number 2. Now, third is demonstration of ability. I actively spend a ton of hours trying to make this 10 times better than anyone else in this niche on YouTube. And when I do that and you hear me talk, you can probably tell I know what I'm talking about, and I'm trying to demonstrate that ability as best I can. So that's rung number 3. Now, sometimes I also include warm testimonials or even cold testimonials for people that I've worked with. I actually probably need to get better at that. I have so many of these testimonials under the surface that I just don't really like forcing into the content because it feels too salesy for me, but that's something that I kind of use sometimes. And then rung number 5, which is my own results, I also always put that in the intro. So at the very minimum, I've got rungs 2, 3, and 5 in every video. Occasionally, I've got a warm recommendation on rung 1. I often infuse different frameworks from Hormozi, rung 6, and then sometimes I infuse different testimonials, either rung 4 or 7. So if you add all those up, every single time you're watching a video from me, especially long form, I'm accruing 30, 40, or 50 trust coins per shot, which is how my trust accrues so fast. And I do similar things on short form as well. There's just less real estate in the video to hammer all these rungs. Now, tactically, knowing that this trust ladder is happening and that accruing the trust coins is a critical precursor to get someone to buy, what does that mean for you? Well, A, you want to try to signal as much trust, as many of these things on the trust ladder, especially towards the top, as often as you can to get people from step 1 to step 2 and then through the rest of the funnel. So if you've clearly signaled trust at this point, you'll have somebody who's aware of the potential solution and trusts you as someone to deliver it, and that's when they—
No way. The clear ramp concept is so crucial. If you don't have that off-ramp, it's like leading someone to a highway with no exits. You need to guide them smoothly to what you're offering. It's all about making that transition seamless.
We'll move to step 3. Step 3 is called the clear ramp. And this is the ramp to get someone from the content where they're aware and willing to go down the funnel to the actual funnel itself. Think of your content like a highway and the viewer is driving down it at full speed. When you signal a solution and have enough trust, they will tap on their brakes and slow down, open to getting off an off-ramp. The ramp you want to build is the off-ramp that gets them to your products and services. It's the exit that they'll take to get to your offer. But if there's no off-ramp there, then they'll notice that and just slam on the gas and keep going. The sad thing is, it doesn't matter how well you have teased a solution or gotten them to trust you in the content. If you don't have an off-ramp to something they can buy, they will not buy. Now, there are 3 types of off-ramps that you can build into your content. The first one is a lead magnet. This is by far my favorite one. A lead magnet is a free resource the viewer opts into getting to give them even more help at solving whatever problem you teased in the content. These help build a lot more trust, and they're the lowest friction way to get somebody from content into this ramp. In exchange for the lead magnet, you almost always get their email address, which is super useful for building a secondary asset that you can push more content through to get them down the funnel. The second type of ramp is a sales page. This is just a direct link to some page that has a buy button on it. And you typically go straight to the sales page when your product is low ticket enough where a cold viewer would just buy it, or your trust coin balance is so high that a warm viewer would still spend a ton on a high ticket product without you in the middle. And lastly, the third type of ramp is a link to a sales call or further DM conversation. This is essentially a classic call or DM funnel where there's some sales process happening in between the content and the buy. And you typically use this for higher ticket stuff where the buyer is going to need more handholding, typically because you don't have enough trust coin balance built up. But here's the thing most people get wrong. It's not just about having one of those 3 ramps. It's about trying to align those ramps, especially the lead magnet, as tight as possible with the content topic you covered. If your video just got somebody fired up about building a monetization strategy, but then the ramp you give is something about storytelling or some random generic thing, well, they're not going to take it. They're not going to go off that off-ramp as much as they would have as if the lead magnet was about monetization. If I talk to you on the radio about New York City for 8 hours, but then the only ramp you have is to Tulsa, Oklahoma, you're not taking it. But if the ramp is to New York and I just talked to you about New York, that alignment is perfect. So the rule with ramps is very simple. Make sure you have at least one for every piece of content and try your best to align it as close as possible to whatever problem or solution you signaled. For example, if you look at the description of this video, I have 3 ramps that are listed below the fold, and I've got a bunch more below that once you expand, but just look at the ones above the fold. I have my short form system, that's the top link, and this is my personal content strategy for short form made free for everyone. It covers how I come up with ideas, how I come up with hooks, my entire monetization strategy. It's dripped out super good and it's free. So that's an example of a lead magnet ramp that's just there. Anyone can have it. The second link is to Sandcastles, which is the #1 content research tool. Essentially, you can make Claude like a social media strategist with our plugin. Super great. That goes straight to a sales page where you can buy it automatically. And then third, I have a link where you can work with me one-on-one directly. And this is if you're a business owner and you want me personally to help you build a content system, review your videos, and really like speed ramp you to success with content. That's also a sales page for SFA. Now, each of those 3 ramps solves a slightly different problem depending on what you're struggling with most. But the point is they're all there for every piece of content. The main takeaway though, and it sounds obvious, if you don't have a ramp for people to go down, they literally cannot give you money. So if you're trying to turn views into dollars, you need to have these ramps there. The simplest ramp I recommend everybody getting into place right away, like today when you're watching this video, is just a free lead magnet that collects emails in exchange for some value loosely or tightly connected to the video you're making, ideally tightly. If you need help figuring out what your lead magnet should be and the different types of lead magnets you can make, I actually put a guide together. I'll link it below completely for free that will step you through exactly how to figure that out. And by the way, that right there, that lead magnet thing, that was a ramp. That was a lead magnet ramp. But that time, instead of the first 3 in my bio, that one was super precisely linked to the pain point I just opened for you. I said, everyone should have a lead magnet. You were like, oh no, I don't have one. And I was like, here, take this. It will help you make one. That is exactly what I'm talking about for building the solution awareness, getting you to trust, and then take the ramp down super aligned. All right, so those are the first 3 steps. We've got one more left. You could probably guess where this is going, but the point is these are all multiplying together. So if you don't have the solution potential, they're never gonna care. If you have the solution potential, but they don't trust you, they're never gonna go down the ramp. If you have the solution potential and the trust, but you have no ramp, they have nowhere to go. So if any of those are 0, the whole equation is 0. So hopefully at this point you realize you need all 3, and now we're going to step 4.
This is gold. It all boils down to trust and perceived value. If you can de-risk the decision for them, you're golden. It's all about balancing that risk-reward equation, and this insight is so pivotal for anyone designing offers.
4. All right, the last step, step 4 of the attention conversion funnel is the aligned offer. And this, of course, is the thing that the viewer decides to buy once they get all the way down the funnel. Now, I'm not gonna spend 20 minutes in this video breaking down what a winning and losing offer looks like. Honestly, Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers, is the GOAT. It's the gold standard for offers. If you wanna learn about offers, just read that. But let me try to simplify that entire book into one learning that I believe is the most important thing from a psychology perspective that matters for offer design. The entire decision of if someone buys something comes down to one question in their head. If I hand over this money, how likely am I to get the result they're promising? That's it. Every purchase you've ever made is just you running that math. It's a risk calculation. And there are only 2 levers that determine where that math ends up. Price, the more money you have on the line, the higher risk it is, and trust. The more trust you have in the person, the less risk it is. That's the whole game. Your job as someone designing an offer is to try to de-risk their decision as much as possible while pricing it as high as possible to still make money. And let me show you exactly how this works in a simple example. Let's say that I offered anyone watching this right now that I would get on a call for 1 hour and personally design their content strategy. And all it costs was $1. How many of the people watching this would do that? I would say literally everyone, if you have a content problem or actively making content, would take me up on that offer. And the reason why is because there's basically no risk. $1 is the risk and you get an hour with me. Okay, now how about I said it costs $100? Still a no-brainer for pretty much anyone that has $100 because the risk reward is so lopsided in favor of you, the buyer. Okay, now let's say it's $1,000 for the hour. Well, for someone with a real content problem, a business that is making money and cash, that $1,000 is still a no-brainer. I've done dozens and dozens of these calls at above $1,000 an hour, and every single person with a 100% hit rate has left super happy. So it's not that $1,000 is too high, it's that for many people they're priced out, but still the risk reward for the right person is in favor of the buyer. Now let's go to $10,000 for that single hour. And that right there, that's where most people watching this will flinch. You would think something like, there's absolutely no way an hour of his time is worth $10,000, da-da-da. And it's not that you wouldn't pay $10,000 if you were guaranteed to get 20 back. It's that the risk you're assuming when you outlay the 10,000, you're not sure what the result will be back. And that's where the risk gets lopsided. And if we continue the example up to $100,000 for that single hour, almost every single person is out. Now, somewhere in there between $1,000 an hour and $10,000 an hour, the math flipped for my core ICP. And it happened because the price kept climbing until the risk outweighed the perceived reward. I call this the flip point of the offer. So if you're making the offer and you're trying to design this, you really have 2 options. You price below the flip point, that's typically low ticket, and you try to get a bunch of people to buy, or you price just above the flip point, but you're gonna have to offer some sort of risk guarantee or de-risk mechanism to get more people to buy. Now here's where this all connects together. You remember the trust coins I talked about in step 2? This is where you could cash them in. Because having more trust with the buyer is one thing that allows you to raise the price without increasing the risk. The more trust you bank, the higher you can price it before someone feels like the flip point has occurred. And that is why trust really is like the most important currency in business. This is how 2 people could price the same identical offer, and for one person, it could feel super expensive, and the other person, it would feel super cheap. At the highest level, this really is the art of offer design, coming up with a promise and a price that is de-risked maximally for the buyer, but where the price is increased as much for the seller. Now, for me personally, the way I approach offer design is the 10x rule. Whatever the price is that I set, I want to be 100% sure that in the first 30 days after someone pays, if they do what I say or follow whatever the product is, they will get 10x or more the return on that money. Because when the reward is that lopsided, the risk basically disappears. Like for example, right now I have this offer with SFA where I literally get on calls, I review people's videos one-on-one, they get deep access to me to fix all their content problems. And we're about to sell out because the price is so low relative to the access and the value you get, it's just completely lopsided. It makes no sense for someone not to do it if they have content issues. And that's just where I like to be on the offer design because I want everyone who ever pays me a single dollar to feel like they're getting a great deal. And so that's just how I approach it. I don't know how other people approach it, but that's kind of like the core sentiment for how we do it. Now, I've never really touched offers or offer design on this channel. I've kind of stuck to content mostly, but this is something that matters a ton if you're trying to build a content money engine and something I think a lot about. So if you guys want me to make more videos or even one video dedicated to offers, comment something like, give me the offer, chef with the mustache, the chef mustache emoji. Drop that in the comments, then I'll know that's something you guys want and I can put that in the backlog for the future. So to summarize the offers piece, when it comes to designing offers, there's two things that matter. The thing you're selling needs to have messaging that's aligned with whatever you talk about in the content, pure alignment, content offer fit. And two, the thing you're selling needs to have the right mix of risk versus perceived reward with whoever your target buyer is. Now, here's the thing that I mentioned before, but it matters so much. These things multiply together. If you don't have an offer that's compelling, you could have the perceived solution, the trust, the ramp to get them there. But if they see the offer and it's not compelling or the risk is perceived to be too high, they're never going to buy it and the equation is zero. That's why this framework is multiplication. You need all four things to fire. They got to pay attention, they have to trust you, they have to get to the offer, and they have to feel like the offer is compelling to want to buy it. All right, guys, that is all I've got on this video. As a recap, like I just said, there are four core things you have to have in place if you're trying to turn views into dollars. If you have those four things in place and you make content for long enough, it will turn views into dollars. And if right now you're making content and it's not turning views into dollars, you're missing one of these four things. Either your content is not properly signaling a potential solution for someone's pain point, meaning you're making the wrong topics or you're framing it incorrectly. Two, they don't trust you enough. You are signaling the right thing, but they don't trust you as the person solving it. And the way you do that is by focusing on the trust ladder. Three, you are getting trust and you are signaling. However, there's no ramp for them to get to anything to actually buy. And four, if there is a ramp, the thing they're trying to buy, the perceived risk is too high based on the price because of the trust you've already built. Typically, if you're not able to build a money engine from content, you either haven't waited long enough or you have a break point or a bottleneck in one or more of those four areas. Hopefully this makes it super clear into what you need to fix in order to get that machine going. Once you have everything activated and all four switches are green, you will start to see money come through. And when money comes through, all you need to do is ramp up the amount of content and you'll build the money pool on the other side. As always, I'm trying my absolute best on this channel to cover the stuff that you don't typically hear all the time. If you're a creator, if you're a business owner, if you're a marketer, and you're trying to take content seriously this year, you're trying to build an engine where you have attention coming in one side and dollars out the other, this will be one of the best channels you can ever watch. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and definitely comment. If you have any blockers or questions in the content funnel you want me to make a video about, definitely comment that because that's where we look for new videos. All right, check all the free stuff we have in the description and we will see you guys on the next video. Peace.